अक्षरसमाम्नायमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनिये नमः। वाक्यकारं वरऋषिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयं नत्वा सरस्वतीं देवीं शुद्धां गुण्यां करोम्यहं पाणिनीयप्रवेशाय लघुसिद्धान्तकौमुदीम्। लघुसिद्धान्तकौमुद्याः सुधाटिकायां विप्रतिषेधे परं कार्यम् इत्यस्य अध्ययनं प्रचलत् अस्ति। तत्र पूर्वस्मिन् वर्गे विप्रतिषेधे परं कार्यम् इत्यस्य भाष्यस्य कश्चन अंशः अपि दृष्टः. Let's actually quickly go through the entire bhashya in sequence so that we recollect what we talked in the last week. So विप्रतिषेधे परं कार्यं विप्रतिषेधेत्यत्र कः अयं शब्दः विप्रतिपूर्वात् सिद्धेः कर्मव्यतिहारे घञ. So he is giving the vyutpatti. इतरेतर प्रतिषेधः विप्रतिषेधः. So that karma vyatihara is being explained as iteretara प्रतिषेधः, also called अन्योन्य प्रतिषेधः विप्रतिषेधः. And a more formal definition, द्वौ प्रसंगौ अन्यार्थौ एकस्मिन् सः विप्रतिषेधः. द्वौ प्रसंगौ यद् अन्यार्थौ भवतः एकस्मिंश्च युगपत् प्राप्नुतः सः विप्रतिषेधः. तस्य किम् उदाहरणम् इति चेत् a very well known answer, वृक्षाभ्यां वृक्षेषु इत्यत्र अन्यार्थौ वृक्षेभ्यः इत्यत्र युगपत्. किं च स्यात् एकस्मिन् युगपत् असंभवात् पूर्वपर प्राप्तेः उभय प्रसंगः. So same statement using उभय प्रसंग and असंभवत्व. असंभवत्व is for the karyas, उभय प्रसंग is for the shastras. So he explains this. कार्ययोः युगपद असंभवः, शास्त्रयोः उभय प्रसंगः. Then he provides two different ways in which this can be resolved. First is तृजादिभिस्तुल्यम्. यथा णुवुल् तृचौ इति सूत्रस्य अध्ययनसमये तत्र पर्यायद्वयं विद्यते, णुवुल् विधीयते नो चेत् तृच् विधीयते. तथैव अत्र विप्रतिषेधे जाते प्रथमं सूत्रं भवेत् नो चेत् द्वितीयं सूत्रं भवेत्. यथा तृजादयः पर्यायेण भवन्ति तथैव अत्रापि स्यात् इति एकः विकल्पः. द्वितीयः विकल्पः अप्रतिपत्तिः वा उभयोः तुल्यबलत्वात्. Both of them will say that I have had enough time executing myself and therefore I will keep quiet and let the others go. So apratipattihi va ubhayoho tulyabalatvat. तुल्यबलेहि उभे शास्त्रे. The दृष्टान्त given is द्वयोः तुल्यबलयोः एकः प्रेष्यः भवति, सः तयोः पर्यायेण कार्यं करोति. यदा तु तम् उभौ युगपत् प्रेषयतः नानादिक्षु च कार्ये भवतः तदा यदि असौ अविरोधार्थी, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टर्म, अविरोधार्थी भवति उभयोः न करोति. किं कारणम् उभयोः न करोति? यौगपद्य असंभवात्. नास्ति यौगपद्येन संभवः. तत्र प्रतिपत्त्यर्थमिदं वचनं विप्रतिषेधे परम् अवश्यं कार्यम्. You have to do the para. This is the Vidhi Sutra interpretation of Vipratisheddhe Param Karyam. On the other hand, when you go to say Tavyat Tavyaniya example or Rule Trucha example, where both of them compete, it acts as a Niyama Sutra. तावदेश हेतुः तृजादिभिस्तुल्यं पर्यायः प्राप्नोति इति तदा विप्रतिषेधे परमित्यनेन किं क्रियते? नियमः विप्रतिषेधे परमेव भवति. So same sutra, in some cases it says vipratisheddhe param avashyam bhavati. So that's basically the concept of dwaram. यदा तु एष हेतुः अपृतिपत्तिः उभयोः तुल्यबलत्वादिति तदा विप्रतिषेधे परमित्यनेन किं क्रियते? द्वारम्. So when it is to be interpreted as Vidhi Sutra, it becomes a dwara. When it is to be interpreted as a Niyama Sutra, it blocks one unconditionally, and corresponding set of two paribhashas immediately emerge out from this particular discussion. So as soon as it becomes a dwara, the door gets opened, the second sutra enters, and then if there is a scope, first sutra enters. तावद् भवति तस्मिन् कृते यदि पूर्वं प्राप्नोति तदपि भवति तदा एतदुपपन्नं भवति पुनः प्रसंग विज्ञानात् सिद्धम्. So punah prasanga vijnana siddham is closely related to the concept of vidhi sutra, is closely related to the example of dwara, is closely related to the problem or analogy of bhritya or the preshya, the servant. On the other hand, when the two sutras compete together, one of them has to be blocked, and then he says tada etadupavannam bhavati sakurgato vipratisheddhe yad badhitam tad badhitam eva. यदा प्रत्येकं सूत्रसत्र प्रयोगः भवेदेव इति चिन्तनं तत्र विप्रतिषेधे परमित्यनेन नियमः क्रियते. Once it is blocked, it's always blocked. सकृद्गतो विप्रतिषेधे यद् बाधितं तद् बाधितमेव. So all this was also captured in this particular table. The first option is Ubhayoho Prasaktihi, that is Trujadibhistulyam. Tatra the Purva Paksha says Paryayaha Prapnoti. This is an example of Vyakti Paksha as given by Kayyata. Vyakti Paksha and Jati Paksha are not the terms used in the Bhashya. I explained that in the last time also. These are the terms that you see in Paribhashindu Shekhara. These are the terms that are given by Kayyata. Kayyata is the previous grammarian in 11th century or so. So Kayyata gave these two examples and he associated Vyakti Paksha with Sakrudgato Vipratishdhe Yad Baditam Eva and Jati Paksha to Punah Prasanga Vijnana Siddham. Ironically, Nagesha in Paribhashendu Shekhara does not agree to this analogy. So he agrees to the entire classification, but he says that this particular argument of Kayyata, that Vyakti Paksha and Jati Paksha are the two concepts that should be brought over here, is not correct. I purposely did not mention that in the previous class because in my personal opinion, Vyakti Paksha and Jati Paksha is very useful concept to understand the clear difference between the two Pakshas. Now that you know the clear difference between the two Pakshas, it may be told that Nagesha gives a few counter examples. Brahmano na hanyat. So Brahmanaha na hanyat is a typical example where if you treat Jati Paksha, then by not killing one Brahmana, the sutra or that particular sentence will be Krutakrutya, and then if you kill other Brahmanas, it won't care. So this is not a correct analogy as per Nagesha, but it doesn't really matter. It helps us to understand the difference between Niyama versus Vidhi or Sakrudgato versus Punah Prasanga Vijnana Siddham. So we took that particular analogy, but it should be understood that this is only Kayyata's Paksha, not Nagesha's Paksha. Okay, so now what we are going to do today is we will take a few examples, actual examples, and see. First, I'm going to go over a few examples of just Vipratishedha. Then I will talk about examples of Sakrudgato Vipratishedhe, and then I'll talk about the examples of Punaprasanga Vijnana Siddham. So let's start with the examples of simple Vipratishedha. The most easiest is this Vrikshabhyam, Vriksheshu, and Vrikshebhyaha. There is a formal statement for this particular Vipratishedha. It says Ato Dirghat Bahuvachane etvam bhavati vipratishedhena. It's there in the Bahuvachane Jhalyeta itself. Ato dirghad bahuvachana etvam ityukte bahuvachane etvam bhavati vipratishedhena. So this is a formal statement that captures this. Ato dirghat means vriksha plus bhyam ityatra supicha iti dirghaha bhavati. Vriksha plus su ityatra bahuvachane jhalyete iti etvam bhavati. When these two are simultaneously appearing for vriksha plus bhyasa, अतो दीर्घात् तस्यापेक्षया बहुवचने एत्वं भवति विप्रतिषेधेन. I think you have already studied this. The next one is इत्वोत्वाभ्याम गुणवृद्धि भवतः विप्रतिषेधेन. This one. So you can see it appearing multiple places in the Bhashya. These are like very, very peculiar examples that you should always remember. Itva utwabhyam gunavruddhi bhavatah vipratishedhena. What does it say? It says that when itva versus guna or itva versus vruddhi, utva versus guna or utva versus vruddhi, in all these cases, it is always guna and vruddhi that wins, and it is typical Vipratishedha. Now, you do not need any of these Vartikas, to be honest. These are not Vartikas because Vipratishedhe Paramkaryam Sutra itself is going to tell that if it's a Para Sutra, it will execute. These are just enumeration of cases of Vipratishedhe Paramkaryam. So, Itva Utvabhyam Gunavruddhi Bhavataha Vipratishedhena. This is in the Tinganta Prakriya, but let's see an example. This Ittva Utvabhyam, I don't know if you have studied, probably not, but this particular sutram, Ruta It Dhatoho, Dirgha Rukaranta Dhatoho, Ikaradeshaha Bhavati. So typically, if there is a Dirgha Rukaranta Dhatu, say Kru, the Rukara will undergo an Ikaradesha and the form will be Kirati. If you have Gru, the form will be Girati. So dirgha rukaranta dhatoho vishaye dirgha rukarasya ru gets converted to ira, kirati, girati, and so on. On the other hand, there is a sutram called sarvadhatuka ardhadhatukayoho which causes a guna. So for example, chi becomes che, chayana, ni plus luta becomes nayana, and so on. So this is sarvadhatuka ardhadhatukayoho. Simple examples can also be given. Say bhu plus shap plus tipa bhavati. That's also an example of sarvadhatuka ardhadhatukayoho. Now, in case of the verb through, which is from the prathama gana and which is a dirgha rukaranta dhatu, there is a conflict between ruta it dhatoho which will require an ira adesha, and sarvadhatuka ardhadhatukayoho, which will require a gunadesha. Sarvadhatuka ardhadhatukayoho is 7384. Ruta it dhatu is 7100. The 7384 wins by vipratished. You get ar as a guna. If it would have been ruta it dhatu, it would be ir. So through plus ar, and you get tarati. Clear? So that's itva utvabhyam. I gave an example of itva. I don't want to enumerate everything, but itvasya गुणेन सह विप्रतिषेधः कथं भवति? इत्व उत्वाभ्याम गुणवृद्धि भवतः विप्रतिषेधेन. वृद्धि example is also very similar. In case of through, if you add an vula pratyaya, there is a vruddhi possible and then there is an itva possible. The vruddhi will take precedence over itva. You will get ar as vruddhi. So taraka, through plus anuvula will become taraka. So that's example of vruddhi. I think Bhashya also elaborates on these things. I think examples given in the Bhashya are little difficult, but Bhashyakara elaborates. So itva utvabhyam gunavruddhi bhavata vipratishedet. Itva utvayoho avakashah astirnam nipurtaha and so on. Gunavruddhyoho avakashah chayanam chayakaha iho bhayam prapnoti astaranam gunavruddhi bhavataha vipratishedena. So these examples probably you don't need to worry about. We can take simpler examples, but the point is when it is a conflict between itva and utva versus guna and vruddhi, the guna and vruddhi will win. There are many such probably examples. So typically anytime you have a conflict between a varna karya and an anga karya, anga karya is always in 6.4 onwards, varna karya is usually in 6.1, and therefore by vipratishethe param karyam your anga karya will win. Simple examples: bhu plus shapa plus ti. So bhu plus a plus ti, there is a possibility of yana desha, which is in 6.1. At the same time, there is a possibility of guna by sarvadhatuka ardhadhatukayo, which is in 7.3. So the guna will win, you will get bhavati. Okay, many such examples can be given. So in go shabda, what happens when you have go plus su? What happens? You have eng rasvat sambuddhehe conflicting with achoniti. Eng rasvat sambuddhe will cause the lopa of the su pratyaya. Achoniti will cause the vruddhi. Why? Because gotornita gives that, makes that su pratyaya as a nit pratyaya. Therefore, achoniti will make a vruddhi. The vruddhi is the anga karya, it will block the varna karya, which is simply ingrasvad sambuddhe. Okay. The same word go, if you take dvitiya or prathama dvivachan, go plus au, what happens? You have gau plus au gavau. If go plus au, it will be gavau, but it becomes gau plus au gavau. So go plus au, you have echo yavayavaha coming over there, which is blocked by achoniti. Gau plus au and then echo yavaya, different echo yavaya, not the same one, different echo, because it is on au now, not on o. So gau plus au, gav plus au, gavau. Is everybody with me so far? I'm purposely not writing on the slides because you have to get into this habit of visualizing the prakriya and understanding it. I actually created a few slides and deleted yesterday because I did not want to want you all to look on the screen and just see that there is a prakriya in front. Okay, yes or no? Take your time, write down the prakriya if you want. See, go plus au, on the face of it there is echo yava happening, but echo yava will not work out here. The au pratyaya becomes nitta by go to nitta, as a result of which achoniti will cause a vruddhi on okara. Vruddhi on okara is aukara. So now you have a conflict between achoniti cause making gau plus au and echo yavayavaha making gav plus au. Echo Yavayavaha is in 6.1, Achoniti is in 7.2. Achoniti is going to win. Therefore, you get Gau plus Au, and then different Echo Yavayavaha comes on Au plus Au and Avo.
But Mahodaya, we have been told Varna Tangam Baliyah, but we don't use Viprathishedam there, no?
Right. So my one question over there is this: if something can be done using a sutram, why do you want to introduce a paribhasha? Basically, what happens is Varnadangambaliyaha is a paribhasha that is required because later down the line, when we say Purva Para Nitya Antaranga Pavadana Uttarottaram, there are Anga Karyas that are Bahiranga and there are Varna Karyas that are Antaranga. In such a case, an antaranga varna karya will win over the bahiranga anga karya. But we want the anga karya to win. Therefore, we are creating a paribhasha called varnadangam baliyaha. He clearly says over here, tena antarangam api savarna dirgham badhitva vruddhihi iti tatsiddhihi. So when antaranga bahiranga paribhasha will force you to employ a varna karya instead of an anga karya, you can use the paribhasha varnadangam baliyaha to generate the correct form. But in a typical case like bhu plus a plus ti, both the interactions are between bhu and a, whether it is a guna or whether it is yana. So then Vipratishedhe Param Karyam is strong enough. You can use Varanadangam, nobody stops you from that, but there is no need if Vipratishedha itself can solve the problem. Clear, not clear? My fundamental question is this. Every time you are employing Varanadangam Baliyaha to make Angakarya win over Varnakarya, why? Varnakarya is in 6.1, Angakarya is in 6.4. Why can't you apply Vipratishedhe Param Karyam? Is there no Vipratishedha? Tell me, so it seems you all know this paribhasha, which probably means you have studied it. Tell me one example where you actually employed it.
Shambhu Shabda Bahuvachane.
Okay, what happens in Shambhu Yoge Jas? Shambhavaha. Okay, Jasicha. What happens by Jasicha?
Angasya Gunaha.
Gunaha. Gunaha. What was the other option?
Echayavayavaha.
Yan, not Hoyavayava. Shambhu plus us is H Iko Yanachi. From where do you get Hoyavayava? I don't know what you're talking, but see, in case of Shambhu plus Jasa, you have a conflict between Iko Yanachi and Jasicha. Jasicha will give a Guna, Shambho plus Asa. And you have Yanadesha. You said Jasicha wins over Yanadesha. Agreed. Why not Vipratishedhe Param Karyam? So why do you use Varnatangam Baliha? You should not. Okay, you should use normal Vipratishedhe Param Karyam because this is a clear case of Vipratishedha. See, Varnatangam Baliha Paribhasha is given for a particular reason. What is that reason? By Vipratishedhe Param Karyam, Anga Karya comes first and Varna Karya comes later on. However, Vipratishedhe Param Karyam is not the first piece of the puzzle. It is the last choice. What is your first choice? Utsarga Apavada. What is your second choice? Antaranga Bahiranga. What is your third choice? Nitya Anitya. Out of these three choices, there are going to be cases where the Antaranga Bahiranga situation applies for Varna Karya and Anga Karya, and an Anga Karya becomes Bahiranga and Varna Karya becomes Antaranga. In that case, a Varna Karya will be forced over the Anga Karya because of Antaranga Bahiranga Paribhasha, Antarangam cha Baliyaha iti Vaktavyam. That has been blocked by Varnadangam Baliyaha, and the Varna Karya gets pushed down as against Anga Karya. It is important to note that Varnadangam Baliyaha Paribhasha is Anitya, which means only in some cases where the Varna Karya wins over the Anga Karya, the Paribhasha is used and Anga Karya is pulled up by this Paribhasha. There are other cases where the Varna Karya will take precedence if it wins. Clear? So the purpose of Varnadangam Baliyaha is to overturn the order when a wrong order is imposed by Antaranga Bahiranga Paribhasha. That is exactly what he says. Nanu evam api iyaya. Iyaya is a form. Ityadau dvitve krute. That's what I said. It is in the lit lakara. You don't have to take this Varnadangam Baliya for Shambhu and other cases. Dvitve krute. Antarangatvat savarna dirghena. What happens is when you do a dvitva, now I'm going to just do hand waving, but hopefully you will understand. In case of iyaya, in the configuration of e plus a, there is a possibility of e plus e savarna dirgha. At the same time, there is an a pratyaya, which is a nitta pratyaya, nal pratyasti, nit pratyasti. Therefore, there is a possibility of vruddhi of e to I by achoniti. The vruddhi is because of an external pratyaya. So it is bahiranga, outside the domain. If you want to consider savarna dirgha, it is just e plus e. But if you want to consider a vruddhi, you have to bring up an external entity called A, because that A will impact the Vruddhi. This is called Bahiranga. So what is happening? The Vruddhi is Bahiranga. Savarna Dirgha is Antaranga. Because of the Antaranga Bahiranga Paribhasha, the Savarna Dirgha will win over the Vruddhi. This we want to overturn. So we say Varnad Angam Baliyaha. So now the Anga Karya wins over the Varna Karya. That is exactly what he says. Tena Antarangam api Savarna Dirgham Badhitva Vruddhihi. That's it. So
So this
Varnadangam.
Antaranga Bahiranga is depending on the niyama. If the niyama is also the Bahiranga, right? Then you consider it. It's not just the operation between the letters within an anga.
That is the definition of Bahiranga. Bahiranga, I have not taught you the definition, but definition of Bahiranga is that a third entity comes in and impacts existing Prakriya. That is the whole point of Bahiranga. Okay, we have not yet gone there. I'll explain that at some point in time, but maybe we'll also leave it because it's becoming too complex. Okay, so Tena antarangam api savarna dirgham badhitva vruddhihi. So E plus E is the antaranga savarna dirgha. By blocking that, the vruddhi, because of the external nala pratyaya, can happen, and that is because of this varnadangam baliha. Do not use varnadangam for cases like Shambhu plus Jasa and so on. It is not a correct place to use varnadangam baliha. Okay, I mean, you can use it. You have a tool. You can always use it and get the correct answer. But was that the reason for which Varnadangam Baliha was created? No. Varnadangam Baliha was created for resolving Antaranga Bahiranga conflict. Any questions?
But my question is, when we studied this Hari, in fact, Shambhu or Hari, Pratamayof Purva Savarne iti prapte. So that Pratamayof Purva Savarne is Sandhi Karyam. Iti prapte. Varna Tanga Karyam Baliyaha iti Jasicha. So what is the need for that? We can as well take
Because there is no need for that. See, there is no need for that. That's exactly what I'm saying. You should, not can, you should use Vipratishethe Param Karyam over there because it is a right tool. The fact that Varnadangam Baliyaha can be used is acceptable. I'm not denying that. You definitely can use Varnadangam Baliyaha. The question is, you don't need a paribhasha if everything is given by Panini over there.
Okay.
Clear? The technically correct way is that if you have a tool called Vipratishethe Param Karyam which solves the whole point, there is no need of Varnadangam Baliya. See, Varnadangam Baliya is specifically for Antaranga Bahiranga. That is the reason. On the very first day, I told you the ordering of the paribhashas is extremely important. So this Varnadangam Baliha paribhasha number 55 is in the section of the paribhashas that give Antaranga Bahiranga. The paribhashas are ordered in a sequence. So initial few paribhashas, Purva Paranitya is a general paribhasha. You have Punah Prasanga Vijnana Siddham, Sakrut Gato and Vikarnebhya. These are for the Vipratishethe Param Karyam. Then the next set of paribhashas are for Para and Nitya till 49. Then he starts with Asiddham Bahirangam Antarange, Antaranga versus Bahiranga. This Varnadangam Baliyaha is in the Antaranga Bahiranga section. Also Akruta Vyuhaha Paniniyaha. And then he starts with Apavada. So sutras or paribhashas are arranged in sequence. This is specifically for Antaranga Bahiranga.
Mahoday, the sequence you're saying is Utsarga Pavada first, and
Correct.
then it should be the Antaranga Bahiranga only next, right?
Correct.
No, but in this example, you're saying Viprati Sheda itself can be used, right? But I thought that should be in the end, first to Utsarga Pavada, Antaranga Bahiranga, Nitya,
Correct.
Nitya, and then.
Correct.
So
in
that
this,
case,
correct. So in this particular example of Shambhu plus Jasa, there is no Utsarga Pavada, there is no Antaranga Bahiranga, and there is no Nitya Nitya.
okay, you're saying
So
there is
we
no
end up in using.
Antaranga
See,
Bahiranga.
Antaranga Bahiranga means external third particle should come. What is the third particle? You just have Shambhu and Jasa. Do you have a third particle over there? No.
No.
In case of Iyaya, we had E plus E, where there was Savarna Dirgha possible, and it is E plus E where there was Vruddhi possible. But Vruddhi was because of external factor called A. See,
Okay.
actions should happen on the same set of entities. Nimitta is outside. That's what Bahiranga Bhuta Nimittam. Okay, but that's not the case in Shambhu plus Jasa. Definitely there is no Utsarga Pavada. Definitely there is no Antaranga Bahiranga. What about Nitya plus Anitya? No, you can do Prathamayo Purva Savarna first and then Vruddhi will be blocked. Sorry, Guna will be blocked. If you do Guna, Prathamaya Purvasavarna will be blocked. So it's not Nitya Nitya, so you have to come down to Vipratishdhe Param Karyam. So now let's actually go to the one or two examples of Sakrutgato Vipratishdhe and Punah Prasanga Vijnana Siddham. I don't want to spend too much time on it because there are like more and more complex examples. But let's take an example quickly. Let's take a quick look at Sakrutgato Vipratishdhe Yad Badhitam Tad Badhitam Eva and Punah Prasanga Vijnana Siddham. So Sakrutgato Vipratishdhe Yad Badhitam Tad Badhitam Eva means what? Once it is blocked, it is always blocked. Which means that it is a Niyama Sutra. So Vipratishdhe Param Eva Bhavati, and the stock example is Tisrunam, which is actually very well known to you. You have done Ajanta Strilinga.
Yes.
Okay, so what happens in Tisrunam?
Tisru Adesha.
See, when you have three chaturoho striyam tisru chatusru. That gives a tisru adesha. Tisru plus am hrasvanadhyapo nutan nam tisrunam. Okay, and nami causes a dirgha, but that is blocked by na tisru chatusru. Okay, now when you have 3 plus am, you have a conflict between tres trayaha and tri chatruho striyam tisru chatusru. Why does tri chatruho striyam tisru chatusru wins? Because of paratva, no other reason.
Wouldn't it be an apavada, Mahodaya? Because the Trestrayaha can happen irrespective of the linga, and this is only for Strilinga.
When does tres traya happen?
Nami pare.
Am pratyay pare, not nam
Ah,
pratyay pare.
Ami.
Am
So
to
pratyay
get
pare,
Trayana,
traya
you get
adesha
only.
bhavati. Okay, so is it specific to Pullinga? No.
The other
Tres
one is
trayaha,
specific to Strilinga.
but is it only for
Tisru
am?
Chatusru.
Tisru Chatusru is not for Am Pratyay. So
So
again,
then is there an Utsarga Pavada between the two?
no, because yeah, it has an independent application. Yeah, in the other apart from the
Tisraha, Prathama Bahuvachan, Tisraha, Tisru plus Jasa, Tisraha iti bhavati. So Tri Chaturoho Striyam Tisru Chatusru has an independent application of Tisraha, Tisraha, Tisrubhi, Tisrubhya, Tisrubhya, and so on. Lot of other places. Whereas Tres
and
Trayaha has an
this one has
application in the
Pullinga
Pullinga.
application. So Tulya Balas. Okay.
Tulya
Yeah.
Balatva asti. So Tulya Balatva, you don't have to count the number of instances. Like this is applicable in 100 places and this is only 78 places. That's not how you compute. Like it has independent existence. Okay. So is this a Vipratishedha?
Yes.
No
Yes.
Utsarga Pavada, no Antaranga Bahiranga. Okay. So what happens? Which one will win?
Tisra Chatusra. The Tisra Adesha only.
Okay,
Is
Tisru
what
Adesha will win. So you
comes.
have 3 plus am, 3 becomes Tisru, Tisru plus am, and then by Sthanivat Bhava, Tisru can still act like 3 and then Tres Trayaha is applicable. You have to block that. Sakrudgato Vipratishdhe Yad Badhitam Tad Badhitam.
This is an Al Ashraya Vidhi Nasti.
No, Tres Trayaha. The entire 3 is getting converted to Traya. The entire 3 is getting converted to Tisru. How can it be Alvidhi? Is it one letter being getting converted to something else?
No. After it becomes Tisra, it is
Huh.
no. Okay. It's still a 3 Shabda
Yeah,
only.
it's still 3 Shabda and you can convert it back to Traya. Sakrudgato Vipratishdhe Yad Badhitam Tat Badhitam. See this. Tisrunam ityatra paratvat tisradeshe punah trayadeshaha. Why? Because of sthanivat bhava. अत आह सकृद्गतो विप्रतिषेधे यद्बाधितं तद्बाधितम् एव तृजादि शास्त्रद्वय प्रसंगे नियमार्थम विप्रतिषेध सूत्रम इति सकृद्गति न्याय सिद्धिः. Language is difficult, but you understand the essence, right?
So we take this as a Vyakti Paksha and
According to Kayyata. So yes, by Kayyata we take this as a Vyakti Paksha, but now that you have understood the difference between Sakrutgato and Punah Prasanga Vijnanat or between the Vidhi and the Niyama, don't use the terms Vyakti versus Jati.
okay. Why are we considering it as a Niyama, not a Dwara? Because there are
Because
no.
if it becomes a Dwara, you will have to apply both of them together. At the point of 3 plus arm, there is a conflict between Tres Trayaha and Tisru Chatusru. Only one has to go, Tisru Chatusru. After that, if the door becomes open, Tres Trayaha will go and then again Tisru will get converted to Trayaha.
There itself, when the Trestrayaha and Trichatroho Tisra Chatasra competes, there itself we are saying it's a niyama.
It's a Vipratishedha.
In that only we say it's a Vipratisheda as niyama, right?
See, it is the way to treat Vipratishedha as the niyama. All that we are saying is it is a Vipratishedha, asmin Vipratishedhe param karyam karaniyam. Whether it's niyam or vidhi doesn't matter. Param karyam karaniyam. Parameva karaniyam uta param avashyam karaniyam. Parameva karaniyam. Why? Because if you add the second one again, you get a wrong form. That's why.
Oh, because we get a wrong form. Okay, that's how we decide
Obviously,
it.
I mean, how do you decide which sutra to use? Prayoga sarana vayyakarana. You want to use the right form. That's the reason Sakrutgato Vipratishedhe and Punah Prasanga Vijnanat are two conflicting tools. How do I decide whether to use Sakrutgato or whether to use Vipratishedhe? Look at the Prayoga. Whichever Paribhasha gives the right Prayoga, use that Paribhasha. It's as simple as that.
This consideration will only come if the same conditions, nimittas exist for
Yes,
the
that's
previous
correct.
two. Okay.
Yes, that is correct. I mean, for example, if the same sutram is applicable but sthani or nimittas are different, then it's not a same competition, right? It's a different instance. It has to be same. So here, tisra becomes 3 and then trestrayah can apply because of sthani vadbhav, which you want to block. Clear? Let's take the example of mala word. Saptami ekavachanam malaya. Mala plus ni.
Neram nadyam nibhyah ityanena amadesh.
Mala plus am. Now what?
An nadyaha and all also comes there, right? Like because of that.
An nadyaha is for nadi samyaka
Nadi
words.
samyaka.
Mala is not a nadi samyaka word. You're taking an example of mati plus am. Take example of mati plus am if you want. It's the same example. A sutra pair differs. But you can start with mala. So in mala plus ni, neram nadyam nibhyaha will cause ni to be converted to am. So you have mala plus am. Now what? Correct.
Yadapaha.
Yadapaha. So you have a conflict between Yadapaha and Rasvanadyaponita. Yadapaha is going to give a Yadagama, Yat. And Rasvanadyaponuto is going to give a Nudagama. So it's an Agama versus Agama. Yadapaha has a Prasakti somewhere else. Mala, Yaha, Mala, Yai, and so on. Rasvanadyaponutta, Balanam, Rukshanam, and so on. So here there is a conflict. Rasvanadyaponutta is what? 7154. Yadapaha is 73113. Who wins? Yadapaha wins. So you have Mala plus Ya plus Am. The story is not over. Ya is an agama. Yadagamas tadguni bhutas tadgranena grihyante. So Yam pratyaya is Am pratyaya. So now you can still apply Rasvanadyaponutta. Clear? You have mala plus am. I'm purposely not writing the prakriya. You should get in the habit of visualizing it. Mala plus am. Yadapaha will give yadagama, yat agama. Mala plus yat plus am. Mala plus yam. In case of mala plus yam, now what you have to do? You can apply Rasvanadyaponuta. Why? Because the pratyaya is yam. Ya is the part of the pratyaya. It is still a shashti bahuvachanasya pratyaya. Rasvanadyaponuta says that Rasvantad nadi samnyakat abantat parasya am pratyasya nudagamaha bhavati. But yam is am because yadagamas tadguni bhutas tadgrahanena gruhyante. The pratyayas with agamas are considered the original pratyayas. When it comes to the pratyay itself, if it would have said ajadi am pratyayasya, then you cannot take yam because yam is not ajadi. But pratyaya property can be imparted. So yam is still an agama, so you get a nudagama. You have to block that sakrutgato vipratisheda yad baditam tad baditam. Clear? Not clear? The third example is what you were saying, matyam. So for matyam, now you have same thing. There is a conflict between ananadyaha and rasvanadyaponut. Now you get ananadyaha. Ananadyaha will again give a plus am. At this moment, again you could have used rasvanadyaponuta because it is eventually am, rasvanadyaponuta, but you don't use it. You block it because of sakrutgato vipratishite yadbhatitam tadbhatitam. So these are a few examples. Let me give another interesting example. Yushmad Sarvanama. You are now studying Yushmad Sarvanama, right? In the Napumsakalinga Ekvachanam, the beauty of Yushmad Sarvanama is that all three lingas have the same form. Tuam, tuam, tuam. So in case of Napumsakalinga tuam derivation, see the derivation of tuam is common across all three forms. So you get nye prathamayoram, which says that in case of prathama vibhakti, prathamayoho, prathama dvitiya, So in case of Prathama Vibhakti, you have as Adesha for Su Pratyaya. So Su gets converted to So Yushmad plus Su becomes Yushmad plus and then further Prakriya happens and Tvam is the form. Concentrate only on this first step. Su gets converted to by Nye Prathamayoram. Okay? But if you take Yushmad as a Napumsakalinga word, what would happen to this Su?
Swamor Napumsakat.
Very good. Swamor Napumsakat. Swamor Napumsakat will cause a looker. 7.123. Swamor Napumsakat will cause a looker. What are you doing? You are blocking it by a Parasutra to cut completion 7.128. Not as cut as Supicha Bahuvachani Jhalyeta, but still cut to cut. 7.128. You are replacing it by Ama. But then this Ama can become Su and Swamor Napumsakat can apply. See, there are two different things. Swamor Napumsakat can cause the lopa of and Swamor Napumsakat can cause the lopa of Su, which can act like because of Sthani Vidbhava. Everything is blocked by Sakrudgato Vipratisidhe Yadbaditam Dadbhatitam. Once Swamor Napumsakat is blocked, it's blocked. It will not happen again. Clear, not clear? See, we counted so many examples. Tisrunam, then Malayam, then Matyam, and then Tuam in Napumsakalinga. 4 examples is sufficient. I can give you 40 more, but this is good enough for now. I'm not giving examples of Punaprasanga Vijnana Siddham yet, but I'll give them in the next class. I think we should stop here.